vote. Carroll, present.
Crossman, present.
Spady, present.
Vecchio, present.
All right, so let's call our first order of business, which is Nathaniel Eldridge, an Eagle Scout candidate, talking about a bridge project off of Round Table Road. Nate, can you hear us? We can see you, but I think your mic is still muted. So there should be a little microphone at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen that you can unmute yourself. We see your note, so take your time. So Nate, we have a couple other items that aren't part of our typical hearing. Oh,
Yeah,
I feel sorry.
he's good. I think he's good.
Yeah.
and I froze at an inopportune time, but Nate, I think, can we hear you?
Yeah. I think
Perfect. So Jennifer told me anyway, a little bit about this project. Would you mind just briefing the board on what you're proposing to do?
Yeah, so I wanted to, in a small section of the Bay Circuit Trail, there's a stone bridge that isn't quite big enough, like the actual hole the water flows through isn't quite big enough, and it causes a lot of flooding in that trail, which like ruins the trail. So for my Eagle Scout project, I wanted to remove that bridge, add a new one, and make a different trail connecting to it to allow the ruined one to heal.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you plan to do the work?
I'm gonna try for the just deconstructing. The rocks are pretty big, so I'm gonna try to use a block and tackle because the trail is very close to the road, so I would be able to just hopefully attach it to like the end of a truck and pull it. And if I can't get it to a truck, I should probably be able to with just the help of multiple hands and like a pulley system.
And are you planning on bringing new materials in?
Yeah, so the lumber for the new bridge.
Do you have a sketch of the bridge, Nate?
Yeah, I have a presentation if you want me to screen share it.
Please.
All right. All right, can you see it?
We can see us.
All right, wait.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. So this is just the overall plan. So like I said, we're gonna remove the stone bridge, add a wooden one on higher ground, and then repair the trail and connect it to the new or the original path. this is just a rough location of where it is in Easton, and then this is the image of it on the Bay Circuit Trail. It's right off of Round Table Road. These are just how I'm going to try to do the bridge deconstruction. So if the block and tackle doesn't work, we'll try and just like shovel out the smaller rocks and maybe pick them up. And then if that doesn't work, we'll try breaking the rocks apart and just moving them. And then this is a photo of the old bridge. You can see that the actual stream is much wider than the hole, and that causes a lot of flooding. This is the flooding. It shows the line of the actual banks compared to where the flooding is. And then this is what the trail looks like when it's flooded and it connects into the river instead of flowing through the bridge, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because it ruins the trail. And then this is the sketch of our bridge. So because the actual like stream has gotten wide from the flooding, we would need to use a gabion, which still allows some water to go through, but we shouldn't have to actually put the gabion in the main flow. It would just have to go where the water has flooded to. And then we would connect it with stringers, and then in the middle use a rebar pole to keep it attached to the gabion with the metal strappings.
Mhm.
And it would keep everything attached and nice and secure. And then we would just use decking on top. So do you have any comments on the bridge idea?
I think that this makes a lot of sense. Any other members of the commission have comments or questions about this?
Looks good to me.
Yep, that's great. And definitely much needed on that part of the Bay Circuit as well. So awesome project.
All right. These are just some images showing. So the first two on the left.
So Nate, we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh,
Sorry, I stopped share. I thought you were done with the presentation.
oh, sorry. There's just a little more. All right, is it back?
Yep.
All right, so the background one and the one on the left shows the width of the trail, and it also shows where you can see the main stream is with the lighter soil compared to where it floods out. And then the one on the right shows how high the flooding gets. So it gets much over a foot because it floods over the land where the actual stream is. And then this is the trail connection and the repair. So we're planning, because it's been washed out, to add some soil, maybe some like small rocks, like gravelish, to help heal the trail. And then connecting it, there'd just be like a small, maybe 100 feet, 200 feet of just like raking and cutting small shrubs. There would be no like trees in the way, connecting it to a further section that hasn't been washed out. And then that's it.
Thank you. So Jennifer, what does Nate need from us by way of permission here?
Just your approval and then a wetland permit for the work that needs to be done, but I can help you with that, Nate.
So will that'll entail another meeting?
A wetland permit hearing, yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think do we need to vote to allow him to have permission to file a wetland permit here?
I don't think you need a vote. I signed the forms
Right.
for him anyway.
Anybody have objections, comments, or questions? All right, so let's move this forward, and thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us about this. This is a really exciting project. I think you sold us on this being really needed in that area. Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Nate.
right. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Right, so our next order of business is Denise Higgins, who's going to talk about water quality of some of our ponds. Hi,
Good
Denise, how are
evening.
you?
Good, how are you? I'm fielding a summer cold, so as long as my voice lasts, I'm sorry. It's not COVID. Wanted to thank the young gentleman before us because this is an area that I walk all the time and we sorely need it. So I'm enthused about this project. I wanted to say I'm Denise Higgins from 4 New Pond Way. I kind of let a little bit out there by telling you my address. For the last few years, we've been noticing as residents on the pond, major changes with the environmental area related to the pond. And so in June, we invited Miss Carlino to come out to visit New Pond Way. At that time, we had the 4 property owners that live on the pond who have all been here for a long duration of time. Myself and my family, we've resided here for 39 years. And in the 39 years, we've seen not a small change, but we've seen enormous change on the pond. We've seen it change from where we would have swimmers who would swim from the dam. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the location of New Pond and its stone wall spillway and its connection to to Old Pond. We used to have people swim from the dam all the way to the end of where the pond sort of takes shape. And we used to have boaters that would come and they would boat and we'd be out on the deck and it's a love-hate relationship where they would invade your privacy and they'd be having a grand time and they would swim and fish and boat and they'd get a little too close for backyarding. But all of that has changed. The pond down in the area where I live, there are 4 homes here and I am number 4. So there are 2 homes before me and 1 beyond me. We don't see that anymore. The type of usage on the pond is related just strictly to those that can gain access strictly on the pond dam itself, which is parallel to Route 123 and 106 that you're familiar with. In August was a time in the past that we would start to see any lily pads or anything that would change the surface of the pond in terms of anything looking different than it normally would with a surface pond. Now we start to see lily pads and other invasives at the beginning of spring, at the very beginning. So if you were to look at our pond right now, you would look out and you would no longer see the water as the top of the pond. You would see the invasives that are now making their way and are staying there for the duration now from the spring all the way to the summer, where they in the winter will die back again and it will cycle all around again and again. With the help and guidance of Ms. Carlino, we were able to secure a 50% grant at the CPC level to fund a study, not only of New Pond, but of Old Pond. If I talk about New Pond, I'm remiss in not speaking about the other ponds that are in the town. Long Pond, Old Pond, which is connected to this, and our last pond. And so the study would contain information for all the 4 ponds, not exclusively New Pond. What I'd like to do is, if there's any questions, feel free at this point to ask any. What I'd like to do is to turn this over to the Conservation Commission and to see if you might be able to propel it forward. If we do nothing at this point, this pond is going to continue to do what's doing, and it will no longer provide the recreation to the town that it has in the past. Many of you may know that this is a pond that gets photographed an awful lot. It's the most I believe it's the most visible of our 4 ponds in terms of the public because it's right there parallel to a major roadway. But it is no less important to all of the ponds that we do have in the town. And I invite any of your questions or your comments.
Yeah, I think this is a phenomenal project. Thank you for spearheading it, bringing it to our attention, involving us in it, and doing some of the legwork to get some CPC money to advance this. I think our first step here is to see what comes back from the invasive species survey that's being done, and then come up with a plan to address these issues across the ponds. I think we'll probably have to have some hearings on exactly what methods that we use to deal with the invasive species. But I know I'm one member of the commission. I'm extremely open to a comprehensive solution to invasives in the ponds.
I'm just going to make one clarification. So we've, Denise and the Neighborhood Association have applied for a CPC grant application that'll be voted on in May.
Okay.
25. We don't actually have that money yet. The money that we used to jumpstart the project was half of the money that we needed. And that was a grant that I received from Taunton River Stewardship Council.
Okay, so the
We
Taunton
started
River
with 2 of
Stewardship,
them. Yeah,
but we're
Thank
moving
you.
forward with at least identifying the invasives.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we had half the money. So I said, don't lose the season, go out and do new pond and old pond so we can make some decisions for next year.
And then maybe next funding cycle, we can apply to actually do something about the invasives we identified this year.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Jennifer, inner workings of the town, right? Is there anything that Denise or the commission should be doing to help advance this?
No, I think first we're just transferring the CPC application from the Homeowners Association to the Conservation Commission and probably partner with the Recreation Commission and still have the homeowners in the area as a partner as well.
Right.
Really make a stronger application. And I know Recreation has asked about future boating and boating access and making improvements to that area. So it only makes sense that we do a joint project.
Perfect.
Yeah, start there, and then when we get the results of the invasive species evaluations, there will also be recommendations, and then we can have a conversation about which ones are appropriate, and then there's wetland permitting that goes after that before anything can happen. Even if we had the money, we have to get wetland permits.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any members of the commission have questions or comments here?
Much needed project. Awesome.
Okay. So Denise, I think the best we can do now is just sort of advance it through an identification phase and keep working towards a solution here.
Thank you. I think if we do nothing, that we get nothing. And thank you for your support. I truly appreciate it. This is an amazing resource for the town. This is what brings people to our community. Our ponds are not exclusively used by the town of Easton. And so thank you for preserving them for our future generation. I appreciate that. And thank you, Jen, for what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Denise.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So our next order of business is Bonnie Tate talking about a letter on rodenticide. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So let me go ahead and share my screen and get started.
Sure.
Please.
Everybody see that okay?
Yep.
All right, terrific. So I've started an effort here in Northeastern and haven't really promoted it that much in Southeastern, et cetera, called Save Easton Raptors. And I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. I spearheaded this approximately a couple months ago. I know I've had conversations with Jen as well, and Paula Vogler, who is also here, has come on board as well, because I've been talking to different people in the community to just try and get other people involved. For some reason, it will not advance. Hang on a second.
Take your time.
Jose? My PowerPoint won't advance, which is really strange, because it always usually does.
Sometimes it, oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. It's a little slow. Okay, so some history. So I've been photographing raptors in Easton, Mass for about the last 5 years. I've lived here in North Easton. I live on Jonathan Drive off of Lincoln for about 12 years. And because of all of the green space around here, we have so many red-tailed hawks, great horned owls, etc. And I've been following. You can probably recognize on the right-hand side those red-tailed hawks sitting on top of the one of the buildings right downtown. And then just this spring, as well as many other years, there have been great horned owlets that have been raised right behind the library. So I'm very much a raptor. I'm a wildlife photographer. And around the same time this spring, I was at an event at Oliver Street Buildings, and I happened to notice, I literally never saw them before, but once you see them, you can't unsee them. The number of black boxes that are around North Easton, most of them are unlabeled, which I thought was illegal, containing these escars, which I will get to in a minute. So then I started looking around North Easton. They're all around the Oliver Street Buildings. I've actually had some conversations with Doug King about them. And I think just a lot of people aren't aware of what's in them. They're all around the Shovel Shop building. There's probably around 20 around the YMCA. They're around the police and fire departments, the middle and high school. Now I see them everywhere. Again, I can't unsee them. So what are escars? Some of you probably already know this, but they're second generation anticoagulant rodenticides. And these little blocks of rodenticide are placed in these black boxes. Some of them look a little different, but they have a small opening on the side. And so rodents enter the box, they eat it, they bring it back to their dens, etc. And what it does is it prevents blood clotting by affecting vitamin K in any animal that ingests the bait. So it doesn't allow the blood to clot. It takes a few days to work, and it weakens the rodent. So the rodent is outside the box. It's bringing the bait back to its nest. It leaves the bait all around, which is why the ones on Oliver Street right across from the trustee's estate surprised me a little bit, because there were pieces of bait outside the box. And any animal that ingests the rodent, which is easy prey, also dies. It works its way up the food chain. It is the first choice for pest companies. It is not available privately at like a Home Depot, but pest companies can use it, but it's easily available on Amazon. So not to be gross or anything like that, but even as recently as May 13th, 2024, it's literally wiping out a lot of animals. On the right-hand side, that is MK. I've photographed her many times. She was one of the first bald eagles in Arlington to nest next to the Mystic Lakes and brought them back. So there were literally probably about, say, 15 to 20 nests as they were brought back. She, unfortunately, last year died of rodenticide poisoning. These animals are autopsied by Cape Cod Wildlife, so this is just it's a definitive, definite. Also on the left-hand side, what ends up happening is a parent brings back a rodent that has ingested these escars. The parents will die, and any owlet that has also been fed will die. So I can just say I'm very much a raptor photographer, and I'm going to say probably 60% around the Boston area of those that I have photographed have died. At Tufts University, 96% of the raptors they get admitted for sickness have tested positive for these escars. As this is kind of just a short presentation, and I don't want to throw lots of facts, fox, pets, children have also ingested and have had issues. I know I have interviewed numerous vets around the area who see dogs with pesticide, eschar intoxication. Fox are a big problem with mange in our area, especially in Brockton, but the eschars lower the immunity because mange is something that every wild animal has. But if it overcomes the immune system, then it becomes a problem. So Mass Audubon started Rescue Raptors with the hope that different municipalities or towns would come on board to pressure Massachusetts to ban eschars on both town and private property. And by ban, I'll talk to that in a second. Other states, such as California, they're not even allowed in the state anymore. So these are regional campaigns that are going up all over. Now we have Save Easton Raptors. And this was a snapshot I took for 2023, and they're probably about triple this now. There are a lot of national partners. Raptors are the solution, Newhouse Wildlife Rescue, Northeast Organic Farming Association, so you have Langwater Farm, etc. The trustees, I spoke to them, they also speak to this, so they are also a statewide partner. So there's a current bill in Congress supported by Senator Markey and many others to eliminate eschars in Massachusetts. Most recently, the Harvard Animal Law and Policy Clinic has petitioned the state to limit the use in Mass due to adverse effects on wildlife. And what they're really pushing is that bald eagles are a federally protected bird, and that the eschars, the effect they have on bald eagles goes against that federal protection. Multiple cities in Mass have successfully had articles passed or propositions banning the use of eschars on town-owned property. And that is what Save Easton Raptors is working towards as a first step. Eliminating them on private property is a whole nother issue. So what we're looking for the Conservation Commission's help with is to see if the town will adopt a resolution to encourage adoption of integrated pest management policies for the town that in part prohibits the use of rodenticides on town properties, including these eschars. But it does provide for waivers with a rodent infestation, and it also provides educating the public about these hazards. A lot of other towns have already adopted this resolution, and so in part, just trying to emulate what they are already doing. By integrated pest management, what that means is prevention. So you starve them, you try to prevent them from entering buildings. There are a lot of old buildings in Easton, so if a lot of these things don't work, it doesn't mean you can't use eschars. It just means it would be the last thing on the list. There are non-toxic ways to do it. There's carbon dioxide, there's traps, there's low toxic ways to do it. There are toxic ways that are non-eschars, which means that they kill quickly. So they're not left in the system for so long that they can be out and about for raptors. And then eschars. If there's a huge rodent issue, then eschars can be used. The prevention, integrated pest management is really key. Just because I know around town, when I visit a lot of the places that have a lot of these, the dumpsters that they have are just overflowing. So the petition will not prohibit, when I say resolution petition, will not prohibit solving a rodent problem. It does not prohibit use of eschars on private land, but it does pose a unique approach. It's already in use in Arlington and Newton. And I'm going to say, because again, some of this stuff was end of last year, Waltham, Newbury already have the prevention on town-owned property in place. So next steps and important dates. On October 6th, the NRT Sheep Pasture has its harvest fair, and they have encouraged and agreed for me to have a nonprofit booth sponsored by Mass Audubon for Save Easton Raptors, and we'll be there basically educating the public. On October 23rd, Mass Audubon and Save Easton Raptors is having a presentation at the Ames Free Library on SCARs, integrated pest management and alternatives. And Conservation Commission, again, I was invited by Jen, and just thoughts on next steps for the town of Easton to try and get a resolution for the town to limit SCARs on town-owned property. I think that's it. I talk fast, so I apologize.
This was really great. I mean, it's a comprehensive presentation. I've seen a couple drafts of a letter, and I know generally about what you've been doing, but it's great to see all the hard work you put into this. I think I know I'm one member of the commission. I'm very interested in helping this cause. I think the first thing that I would want to know is what the Board of Health thinks of this. So as much as I don't want to send you off to another commission, I would love to hear their input, because it's not really what the buildings around town are not really what we regulate, the health and safety of the buildings around town. And as much as I see this as a habitat impact and something that impacts our conservation resources, and I'm on board with finding a solution here, I just would want to know from the people who are doing the day-to-day around really cafeteria maintenance in schools, and stuff like that, as to what are the viable solutions, what do they think of this proposal before we tell them, this is what the Conservation Commission, which deals with wetland issues, thinks about managing rodents at buildings. But I guess I think going to the NRT festival and raising public awareness will go a long way, because from my perspective, what I see this as is an awareness issue. I think the more people understand the impact that what seems like kind of mundane traps have on the ecosystem at large, people care more. But I think my input would be, we're here to help, but I think we should go have a conversation with the Board of Health as well.
So do you propose that I contact them and present to the Board of Health?
Yeah, and Jennifer, is there any way to facilitate that? I mean, I would be interested in going along and going to a Board of Health meeting to talk about what we've done so far and what some of our thoughts as a commission are.
Yes, just asking to be put on the agenda.
Yeah, so let's do that. Comments or questions from other members of the commission?
Bonnie, what you're doing is awesome. I actually don't live too far from you. I live on Ramblewood Drive, and I'm outside always taking photos of birds as well. So pretty cool that we share the same thing, and I love the project, and it's an awesome idea. So totally support it.
All right, thanks, Mike. And I thank all of you for having me and Paul here just to be able to present this. This is like first step for us.
So I know we've talked about circulating a letter to sort of the DPW and town management about the rodenticides, and I think that's something that we're still very much going to do, as long as you still would like us to.
Yes, very much so.
And it's more or less just an educational piece with some of your literature saying, hey, let's consider using these. Let's consider not using these in light of some of the data that you've presented tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
We send the letter after Board of Health or before?
So I think the letter's not us supporting a ban, right? I think there's nothing wrong with sending information to everybody. So I think we probably can do it in advance of getting on their agenda.
Okay.
So who would you be sending the letter to?
It would be town departments. I can put it up there if you like. Yeah, it's just all town departments and just a little information that you've given me. So thank you for all of that. And then the websites, so people can go there and find more information from Mass Audubon, the Raptor Rescue. And then they also had some, I'm going to scroll down if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can send that to you, Bonnie, so you can read it.
Yeah.
But just some of the other information that they have, these great, illustrations.
No, that would be awesome. Also, just to make sure to headline that, Save Easton Raptors, because that's what Mass Audubon uses.
Okay,
It's linked to their Mass Audubon site.
okay.
And as they send it out to all the other towns, it disseminates to those via link.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. Thank you very much for your time and your effort with all this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Bye, Jen.
So moving to hearings and possible deliberations, our first order of business is 230 Main Street, notice of intent for a boathouse replacement.
I don't see the applicant or the representative in the waiting room.
Okay.
If anyone's here for that, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hand, so
Okay.
I would suggest continuing to the next meeting.
Are we good timeline wise?
Yes, if we continue. Yep.
All right, so our next meeting is September 9th, if I'm not mistaken, before I make a
Correct.
motion.
Yep.
Motion to continue 230 Main Street to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Spady second.
Carol motion, Spadia second, roll call vote. Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady aye.
The motion passes. Up next is 557 Foundry Street. Stephanie Danielson, notice of intent application for redevelopment of Swifts Park.
Stephanie has a planning board meeting tonight and was going to pop in when she had a moment.
Okay.
I don't think anyone else is here to present, but we'll just give you a second to raise your hand if you are.
And we'll just put that on for second call after continued hearings.
Yeah, you don't have to make any motion or anything, just
Yeah.
move to the next one, and then as soon as Stephanie pops on, I think she'll raise her hand, and then we'll know she's here and take her item next.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so seeing nobody with their hand up, we're going to move on to continued hearings and possible deliberations. First one is 572 Foundry Street. Construction of a single-family home with an attached garage. Mark, we see your hand up. When you can turn your video and your mic on.
Yep, I don't have video. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you just fine.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Do I start now? I'm a little, I'm not very good handy with these Zoom meetings as well as others. But I apologize in advance.
It's okay.
It's my understanding if there are anything for you to look at, I can have you call them up. As in like the plan, which is number 14.
So
on the attachments.
I don't have the plans available to me where I am at the moment.
Okay.
Typically whoever's presenting will bring the plans to show the commission.
It sounded like you could have the commission display it for us. I'm sorry, I don't have that ability. I can talk it over.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Let's try that.
Yep. Mark Whalen with WT Whalen Engineering, 481 Mount Hope Street, North Attleboro, Mass. We have, as you said, a proposed single-family house will be adjacent to 574 Foundry Street. Now, this project happens to be directly south of the earlier project this evening of Old and New Pond. It's almost directly across the street from that. So if anybody wants to, along our southerly line and our easterly property line is the project of the Sawmill Village that the commission's probably aware of already. So as far as resources on the property, we don't actually have wetlands or anything like that. So this is just in the buffer zone, but because we're in the aquifer ACEC of the Canoe River Aquifer, additional buffer strips have been added to the resources. Directly south and east, within about 35 feet or so of the property, is some wetlands from the prior project that was delineated. We've added those to our plan. They come from the digitized plan from Conoco Engineers in their application that they've been ongoing since, I guess, 2020. And so we've digitized those resources in. So basically we have a wetland off the site about 35 feet. Our lot is very narrow. It's only 75 feet wide. It's about 220 feet deep or so to the south line. The grading of the site is such that it drops off from the road about 15 feet rather. So it has a relatively steep grading requirement. The proposal is to have all sewer and water hooked up to municipals. We do have, we're in a local 100-foot buffer and a 300-foot buffer to a vernal pool that's about 300 feet away. And that area is about 550 square feet. And that's in the southwest corner of the lot. Because of such a narrow size of the lot, naturally we're going to need grading and so forth. So as far as not impacting, we'll be within 100 feet. That's not possible to actually have a structure there without working in the 100-foot to the bordering, isolated wetlands off-site.
So I'm to be totally honest with you here, Mark, I'm really struggling to get a full picture for what the project is without
Yep.
seeing the plans. And I know that we had some staff comments here, so I'll ask Jennifer to enlighten us on some of that in a moment. But I'm thinking we're going to have to come up with a solution to see this, particularly in light of, we'll ask after you've had an opportunity to present if there's public comment, and I'm not sure how we really totally address public comment without being able to show them the plans.
No, it's in the application. And I know when you go online, you can go to that number.
Mhm.
And under the attachments, you can hit number 14. I don't know if you can do that on your end.
I can, and I've seen the plans. I just
Okay,
can't do it in the meeting at the moment.
okay. Yeah, so basically the 500 to the vernal pool, it's 300 feet away. What I've done is take pictures. And you'll see in the application, I start the pictures at the southeast corner of the lot, which basically is the left rear. And I follow along the southerly line, and then along the easterly line, and then back to the point of beginning. But basically, I'm focusing on walking the line. So when you look at it, 1A is at the corner looking west. And as you proceed down the line, you can see that there's construction going on due south and of the property, and that there's activity on the west side of the line. There's actual lawn. You have a lawn area. So the area that's in question has previously been disturbed. And that's why we're asking for waivers. I think Julie's here and she's waving her hand.
Julie, we can't hear you. I don't know if you could turn your mic on if you want to be heard.
Oh,
Hi.
there she is.
So if you would like me to share my screen and I can pull up whatever we need to look at,
Please.
okay. And I do this all day at work, and now I can't find share my screen.
I see you.
No, I'm looking to share my screen.
Oh,
Here.
okay.
Okay. So this is,
That's great, Julie. Thank you.
okay.
Julie, could you zoom in?
Is that too zoomy?
It's a little too zoomy.
Sorry.
You zoom out a little more.
I'm gonna bill Wayland for this, I'm just saying.
Now we're out too far.
Keeps switching. Where are we?
Julie, if you hit the plus or minus, are you kind of like, you're expanding it with your hand like on an iPad?
Yeah.
If you see the plus and minus, like it says 61 on like the top there. Right, like right above the plans. See that little plus and minus similar to
Yes.
61 in the middle? Hit the plus, now we'll increase it like slowly. There you go. There you go. A little better.
Is that not it? Oh. Mark, am I on where it
Yeah,
shows?
I can see you, yep, in the plan, thank you. Can you hear me well enough?
We can hear you.
Okay, very good.
But,
So-
so there is a section of the proposed home that is within the 50-foot buffer.
Correct.
Yeah.
The whole lot, basically 70, almost 75% is within the 100-foot buffer
Mhm.
zone to the wetland. I guess it was previously on the prior application was called wetland B. I think at one time it might have been labeled as isolated wetland, but Easton doesn't have the distinction between the two. So, well, thank you so much for bringing that, Julie. So what we have is the lot, and you can see that it drops off at about 15 feet there. And the proposed structure will be at grade, a walkout basement, basically. The floor, which is actually puts it slightly above the existing grade there.
Mhm.
There's naturally, to actually be able to build the structure, we're gonna have to remove trees and so forth. We show the light blue line is where the new wood line would be. Limit of construction, but we're proposing a cedar fence. When we're all done, a cedar fence along the east property line, closest to the wetland B, along the length of the property line. And also we propose to put your Easton sign, conservation signs on the fence if so desired by the commission. That area, land court had previously decided shows an older foundation there. So that area has been disturbed in the past. There was a land court plan, I think it's over 100 years old. And you can still see some of the foundation. I took pictures of it. Part of the wetlands, the foundation would be the pictures are 3D, 3C, and 3E, but you can kind of go over those later. And they show rocks and so forth, but that's the result of the foundation that's been there for a long time. So I guess one of the provisions for the commission is if they decided that the area has previously been disturbed. That's one of the reasons, I guess, to grant a waiver. And due south of the property, on the plan, you'll see existing disturbed area. That's actually in the process of being worked under the Saw Village project. So there's pictures of that also. That's picture 1A or 21 in the application. But that you can actually see that that's bare soil at the moment, or light grass at the time. But in the future, there's going to be a building proposed within 10 feet of that, almost in the middle of the back line. And so one of the concerns was how to address the 500 square feet that's within 300 feet of the vernal pool. And I don't know if the commission has the ability or could consider that area is already previously disturbed enough where it may or may not make sense to protect it, to the extent that if it was a vacant lot out in the woods, you'd probably afford it more protection. But because there's a lawn, existing lawn right up to it, and then the back, there's obviously activity being worked there, that I don't know that we really propose to do anything with that land, that the 500 square feet there in the southwest corner. But if the commission wants us to, we can leave it alone and just, if that's what they decide, if you decide that, then they could leave that little triangle piece alone as is. But I'm not sure if that's necessary if the commission feels it's not something that's in the same category as vacant land somewhere else not being disturbed. As far, I mean, really the size of the lot, it's 75 feet wide, and it's, you try to put a building on it and you're going to have grading. So we've requested any and all waivers necessary to do the project. Hopefully I've done it correctly. And that's pretty much it.
All right, Jennifer, staff comment on this?
Sure. The lot right now is forested. You can see the light, sort of bumpy grayish line on the left-hand side of the property line, and the teal sort of bumpy line is the proposed limit of work, or should be the limit of work. The staff report requested that the plans be stamped by the professional engineer as well as the surveyor. Requested the retaining wall details to be shown on the plan, illustrate where the Cultec units will be on the plan, and provide an operation and maintenance plan. And then there were some questions about the soil where the Cultec units were proposed. So we're waiting for that information.
Okay, I addressed some of those concerns in the number 16, attachment number 16.
Shall I pull that up?
Sure.
So you have the surveyor stamp. Is there a reason why you won't put your engineering stamp on your plan?
Well, I'm not a professional engineer. I'm a civil engineer, EIT, and a soil evaluator. And this project being exempt from stormwater management and so forth, there's no real design. We're not mitigating. There's no mitigation, and anything is de minimis as far
Well, you're
as
showing grading, so grading would typically be stamped by an engineer. The surveyor
no,
doesn't usually do any type of grading or engineering. That's not really what the Board of Licensure says is what the survey stamp is. So everybody does a different job, landscapers, surveyors, engineers, and they all have their respective stamps, and both of those should be on the plan, and that's for the protection of the property owner. So that's why it's requested of every project that's before the Conservation Commission. So we would continue requesting that stamp be on the plan, please.
May I speak? Yeah, now there's the only place in the town of Easton that I saw that actually being a condition was on your checklist. And prior to that, it always said either or. And it's up to the professional to decide what is acceptable under the license. And grading is naturally is part of the surveying profession. And
I'm not sure the Board of
typically
Licensure sees it that way, but we can
They
forward
do.
their
They do.
documentation if you like.
We've checked with them. There's no design on the stormwater. There's no design here. You simple grading, we do that all the time. It gets accepted everywhere, apparently not by your checklist. But
So
other than the checklist itself,
Is
this is
WP
something-
Whaling Engineering Company, do you have an engineer on staff who can stamp that? It doesn't seem like a difficult thing if you're an engineering company to have one of your engineers stamp the plan. That would be really helpful to us. Did you want to address the retaining wall details that were requested? You do have a retaining wall that does require grading.
Yeah, the retaining wall, again, it's a landscape wall. It's under 4 feet tall. Typically, that's not something that's engineered. We often show retaining walls can be rocks, can be
Sure, and we've seen many retaining wall details that show just rocks, boulder sizing, and
Well,
the
it
that
was-
goes along with it. So that's a pretty
Yeah.
standard request of the Conservation Commission, and we would like to see that on the plan. How about the Cultec units? Can you show us where those will be?
they're just planned to be out in the front yard. They're in fill. So they would just be under the in the front lawn coming directly from the downspouts.
So the grading only shows fill on the other side of the retaining wall. Are both of them in the fill next to the retaining wall, or do you have one on either side of the house?
Yeah, you could have one on either side. You could be on near the wall. I don't
So
think
only
it needs-
one is in the fill and the other one should be in natural soil by your plan because you're not showing any grading there. So is one in
No,
natural
no,
soil and one in
mhm.
fill?
We wouldn't put it in the 15-foot zone. We'd put it in the front yard, which is where the walkway would be. You can see the walk and the driveway,
Okay.
and it would follow.
Again, you can see why we're asking to show that
Yep,
on the plan.
absolutely.
So we can see where that is. And is there an operation and maintenance plan that Caltech?
No, again, that's a standard detail, and normally you don't see an operation maintenance plan for private. Something that's private.
So typically they will take the manufacturer's instructions and give them to the homeowner and include that as part of their package. So the homeowner knows how to maintain that. So I believe Julie, you will be the homeowner?
I actually own the lot.
Okay.
I'm the one trying to sell it.
Okay. And do you know what a Caltech unit is?
I have no idea, but I will find out and
Okay.
ensure that we have the manual.
You have a detail there, and the website is available.
That's great. So that's what they asked for. So I can find that. But Mark, they're asking for detail to be added to this per the staff update letter. Are you able to provide that on the plan?
Not at this time. But I'll work towards that. But because eventually your regulations say that stormwater, you adhere to the stormwater management policies of Massachusetts, and this is a project that doesn't require that. So
Okay,
we can-
so it's something under the bylaw that you've proposed on the plan. We're just asking for the details so that the contractor knows how to build it and how to bid the project, and so that the property owner knows how to maintain that. So that's
So
why
that-
we asked for them in the
Alright.
staff report. So if you
Yep.
can provide those, that would be very helpful.
So
Okay.
Mark, everything that's listed in that staff report that we went over,
Yep,
that's what they are asking for.
right.
Okay, do you think those are things you can provide to us before the next meeting? Because we'd really love to close this.
I'll work on it. I won't promise it, but we can work towards that.
Okay,
So we did ask for the waivers. Are those okay as submitted? That was one of the other questions.
yes.
All right, Any comments or questions from members of the commission?
Nothing for me, just, you just need to see that stuff, so.
Any comments from members of the public with respect to 572 Foundry Street? All right, I'm going to, I'll just make the motion. Motion to continue 572 Foundry Street to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Spady second.
Crossman second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote. Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much
Thank
to
you.
the commission for your direction, and I appreciate the time.
Of course.
Thank you.
Um,
And Stephanie has joined us, so if we go back one hearing.
yeah, of course.
We're good.
So up next is this under? So this is under hearings and possible deliberations. We're going back for 557 Foundry Street, which is a notice of intent for redevelopment of Swift Park.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm well, Ben. How are you?
Doing good.
Well, thank you, everybody, for having me here this evening. I'm Stephanie Danielson, the Director of Planning and Economic Development for the Town of Easton. And I'm here tonight to talk about the Swifts Park development. We have a notice of intent in front of you because the park has a small area of riverfront area and then the associated 100-foot buffer located on the site of the park. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Swifts Park. It is that somewhat triangular piece of land that is between Pequannocket Avenue and Foundry Street at the intersection of Pequannocket Avenue. It is currently a grassed area with some mature trees, and there is some parking area located there. There also, and let me go back, I'm going to share my screen. I am prepared to do that.
I've been in Easton my whole life. I did not know Swift Park by its name until tonight.
I didn't know it had a name either until it was brought to my attention. So you can see from this plan here, which pretty much shows the existing conditions, this is a paved area over here on the westerly side. This is kind of disturbed rough area and another little patch of pavement. For quite a while, as I understand it, this used to be used, this area, this hatched area used to be used as a cutoff from Pequannocket Avenue. I guess it helped people get onto Foundry Street. I'm sure it contributed to probably some of the crashes that occurred there. But it actually was donated to the town in, I think it was 1948, as a park to commemorate Lawrence, Private Lawrence Swift, who was an orderly during the 1918 flu pandemic and who died as a result of contracting the flu while performing his duties. So the project is to redevelop this park into a memorial park, recognizing and rededicating the park to Private Swift and recognizing and commemorating the first responders and all the folks who were on the front line serving the needs of the community and the nation during the serious part of the COVID pandemic. And I'm going to jump to what we're proposing for the park. I'm going to go to the full So what's being proposed is that the parking area be formalized to provide sufficient parking for the park. It's primarily intended to be a neighborhood park. And at the moment, you might ask, well, how's that going to happen? There's no sidewalk on Foundry Street. At one point in time, this park did serve as a neighborly park. And we have plans that are currently being designed for improvements to Foundry Street that will include sidewalks and a multi-use path. And folks who've been on the south side of town now, over by where the sawmill development is occurring, will have observed that temporary street lights, traffic signals have been installed. They aren't activated yet, but they will be once the road widening occurs there. And when there is a project that is on Mass DOT's Transportation Improvement Project for the long-range improvement of Foundry Street. So as I mentioned a minute ago, we're in the current phase of designing the road improvements there. And this will connect the new development in the neighborhood and the existing residential and commercial development to the park area. We will be removing the pavement that exists here. And there will be new impervious surface in the form of walking paths that traverse through the park. And these will be graded to provide accessibility to folks who are using mobility devices. And there will be some new vegetation, quite a bit of new vegetation planted to improve the space and area. So we have 270 square feet of riverfront area that's associated with Beaver Brook. That is in this area right here. And again, the 100-foot buffer is in this area. It's developed with 1,000, the riverfront area itself and the paved area with 1,307 square feet of pavement and 3,871 square feet of grass lawn. The pavement will be removed and replaced with grass and other plantings. And then, as I noted, the area, there will be a portion of the area that's paved with pavers. And then I think this extends down as well. The alternative to the disturbance that's being proposed in the riverfront area would be either not to move forward with the project, and then we would not be rededicating the park and would not be building a memorial to the COVID and 1918 flu pandemic first responders and those who were victims of the two diseases. There's also going to be a historic aspect to the park, recognizing the Furnace Village area and its importance as an industrial center with the iron foundries that existed there. So the other alternative would be to try to find another location, but again, it wouldn't recognize the importance of the Furnace Village or private Swift. Stormwater is proposed, and I'm going to switch for a minute to another plan. There is a catch basin that will collect stormwater from this paved area and hold it and then direct it and the overflow into an existing storm drainage system, as well as a bioretention area that would be located in this area and one over in this area here. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
covers it.
Could you talk a little bit about the plantings? What the proposed plantings are?
Yes, and Jen has provided some comments on
Okay.
plant material. Originally, this was, again, we worked with a landscape architect. So there are a number of mature trees that will be planted. They are proposing red maple, but a varietal. Jen has recommended that we do native and not varietal, which we certainly will consider and do. And I looked this up earlier, the Nyssa sylvatica. I believe that is also a tupelo tree and sweet gum. And then we have some ornamental trees that are being proposed. And again, Jen's given some guidance on some more native material for that we will we can swap out. I think the one plant that Jen had suggested, and I have some questions about. Jen just got back from vacation, so I haven't had a chance to talk to her. But I think in place of the daffodils, you were recommending the indigo, the false indigo.
Oh, you could do that. Yeah, sorry. Before
may-
vacation, if we talked about that, I don't remember.
It was in your first kind of blush of comments.
Okay, yeah, it was more the sweet gum
Okay,
as a southeastern Asian plant.
yeah, but there is a native gum tree that has a beautiful fall foliage that I would swap out for that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Bonus
Nice
points
bright
if we
red.
can sneak an American chestnut in there somewhere.
Yes, and
I
that
was
was the
thinking that.
other. I was trying to find Jen's email, just of course, just before the meeting, and I couldn't find it that had the list. Yeah, the American chestnut, that certainly would work. And the only question I had about the indigo, the false indigo, was I did a little bit of research on it. And it sounds like it would make a great ground cover, but it also can kind of take over.
Mm.
And it likes a lot of sun. And I think one of the things we're trying to accomplish with the trees is a little more shade, not completely block out the sun. But I think that's also an advantage where right now, while you do have some mature trees, the shade isn't, and it probably is helping to the heat island effect from the road, but with more trees, you can get more of that shade cooling that occurs. But I'm happy to continue to consult with Jen.
Yeah. No, I think a little bit of input from us on plantings, and I think this is a great project. I think, are we waiting for a DEP number? still?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from other members of the commission?
Just one or two from me.
Please, yeah.
Just that, Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind scrolling up to the plan that showed the line for
Okay, I'm
the
gonna go.
easy. Yeah. I just want to show the jurisdictional areas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
So the blue line and to the left is under the bylaw. And then you can sort of see that tiny little triangle that's riverfront area. That to the left is the state law. Just so it's clear, two different jurisdictional areas. The DP filing number is needed. This project is a redevelopment project under the Wetland Protection Act riverfront area, and it would meet those requirements. It's also a redevelopment project under stormwater management, and stormwater has to be done to the maximum extent practicable. And their stormwater report shows that. I did have a few comments about using straw, not hay, and the difference between erosion and sediment control, and a couple other small comments, but those should easily be addressed. And we're just waiting for the file number. And the plan should be stamped by the engineer and the surveyor.
Mm-hmm.
But those are all the comments that I had.
Right. Ed, did that bring up anything for any members of the commission that they would now like to ask? All right, seeing no additional comments or questions, are there any public comments relative to 557 Foundry Street? All right, seeing none, we of course can't close because we don't have a DEP number. So I'm gonna make a motion, and I'll make the motion to continue 557 Foundry Street to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Crossman second.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote. Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
So I think we're up to 51 Rockland.
Correct.
I'm going back to my agenda.
Yeah.
So I'll call 51 Rockland Street, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation.
Okay, this meeting was continued so that we could receive the isolated land subject to flooding calculations and have our peer reviewer review them. The peer review was just finished today at 4:30. And so it sent it over to the applicant and their engineers. They have requested a continuance to 9/9.
Okay. All reasonable. Motion to continue 51 Rockland Street to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Vecchio, second.
Carol motion, Vecchio second, roll call vote. Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Passes. Up next is 718 Washington Street.
Okay, and oh, here we go. Michael, thank you. Oops, where'd you go?
We have somebody joining us.
Yes.
There we are. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to give the commission an update tonight. We had a very good peer review letter on this project that pointed out some off-site contributing areas and a few items that would really facilitate this project and make it a much better project. And we did do the investigations to the drainage areas. We found some additional survey information and started the updates. And as part of this, we met with our client on multiple occasions. We've had multiple chances to address reduction of impervious areas, shifting the building forward towards the street, removal of the pavement to the northern side of the building, removal of a driveway on the northern side of the building, and isolating an area where he wants to keep some equipment on the site for his own lot maintenance, and providing that isolated with protection devices, adjusting the stormwater system so it won't discharge on the little triangle section on the abutter's property, and addressing the water that flows to the site from the abutters to make sure that it will move to the rear. So all these things we've been working on and updating the plans, and we've been presenting this back and forth with the client. He hasn't pressed the go button for the final plans yet. We're waiting for him to give us the authorization to finalize everything. But in the meantime, he has also eliminated that retail use he wanted in the front of the building. And he's also agreed that he needs to really set the standards for what goes on in the building. One of the commissioners members had mentioned that they were concerned that, anything would go inside these contractor bay buildings, and he wants to control that also. So we have a positive direction. It's just that I don't have something concrete to show you, though the bottom line we will have addressed the concerns of the peer reviewer. I will have a detailed point-by-point response with the revised plans. We're just waiting for the client to give us the final go-ahead to finalize everything for it.
So Michael, I think what the reason we asked you to come in is it's been on our agenda for a long time, and that's really your prerogative more than it is ours. But when we see things on our agenda continuously without a substantive update, we just sort of want to check in and make sure that we're giving you reasonable extensions.
Oh, I appreciate it. I really do. I had envisioned that we would have something in front of you by tonight, but it seems that the summertime slowed things down with this client. So hopefully we'll get the go. He'll get the authorization to us so we can move forward with the design. But the end of the day, I think that the commission is going to be very pleased with keeping the impervious area down and shifting it further away from the resource areas.
Great. So I assume you would like a further continuance. Would you like the next meeting, which is 9/9/24?
Why don't we look into October for that, please?
Okay.
Thank you. October 7. And so we would request, whatever information you have at least a week before, and then the peer reviewer may take longer than that, but at least a week for us.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay.
So I'll motion to continue 718 Washington Street to the October 7th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spadia second, roll call vote. Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
So up next is 632, 646, 666 Washington Street. Notice of intent for the connection of sewer lines. We continued this from the last meeting, and it's my understanding the applicant has requested a further continuance.
Correct, to 9/9. Oh, he froze.
Well, all right, so let's make a motion to continue. Was it?
I froze.
Oh, he's back. Never
I
mind.
froze there.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that. So the applicant requested to, is it 9/9?
Correct.
Motion to continue the Washington Street project to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Crossman, second.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote. Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
All right, up next is 560 Foundry Street. Request notice of intent for utility pole installation.
Thank you, Nick. We have so many projects on the same street, all different numbers that gets jumbled up on who is the applicant for that. It's all the same street.
Foundry Street's got a lot going on right now.
All right, so hi, my name is Nick. I work for Engineers and Scientists representing Town of Easton Department of Public Works. As you know, it's for 560 Foundry Street. The project really consists of widening the road and relocating some utility poles. If you'd like to, I can share my screen and show the plan set.
Please.
That's showing up.
We can see it.
Let me go up to the top here. So see, right here, this is the entrance to the sawmill community that has been slowly being built. And over on the side here, you have the stream Beaver Brook, I believe. Yeah, Beaver Brook that goes and runs this direction. Beaver Brook has a 200-foot wide riverfront area that extends all the way over to here, if you can see that, which encompasses the buffer to bank as well as the buffer zone of the 100-year floodplain on the other side of the property, which is going to be my second screen. Here's the entrance again. Right here is an isolated wetland, which, as you know, is jurisdictional under the town. And that has its own buffer zone, which buffers 100 feet to here. So the bulk of the project is going to be the road front in general. The project consists of relocating 6 new 6 utility poles, so it's going to be pole 164 through 169, and adding new pavement for lighting efforts. I think the bulk of the project is within either a resource area or a buffer zone. As you can see, it's a little bit color coded and a lot of arrows, so there's a lot to look at. But yeah, the poles and the pavement are going to be, they're considered limited projects, which is great because that allows for the ability to issue an order conditions. But we have impacts associated with riverfront areas associated with Beaver Brook, isolated vegetated wetland buffer zone, bordering land subject to flooding buffer zone, and then buffer zone associated with the ACAC on site, which is the Canoe River Basin. We had some comments come back from the peer reviewer, Jennifer, which were spot on, which were very helpful. We've adjusted the scope to include only maintenance within 10 feet of the proposed utilities, to ensure that there is less degradation to the resource areas and surrounding area. We've also we've been working with I think it's Bowman for a lot of their scope of the construction of the road widening, which has been a little bit back and forth, but the current plan is that the drainage system for Sawmill will be utilized for the road, so it'll sheet flow and it'll overland onto the grass swale, and the grass swale will convey the water to the 4 bays, which will flow into a basin. The calculations were run to ensure that the basin could substantially provide adequate attention to this, and there was, after the numbers were run, a 2-year storm increased the peak runoff by 0.16 cubic feet per second, so it's very minimal output, so it should be sufficiently managed. And that's a good thing because it allows for the maximum extent of practicability without significantly affecting the abutting developments or affecting any sort of future designs. So I think that is kind of the big rundown of it. Like I said, I think the main goal here is to add the turn lanes to try to help with the traffic and make it a lot safer to enter and exit the communities. And the only other thing to note is that there has been some already existing impacts and stuff of that sort that have been previously permitted for the construction of the Sawmill subdivision. So I think that was accounted for in some of the calculations and some of the disturbances.
Thank you. Jennifer, would you start us off with staff comment here?
Sure, and just have a couple. The plans, like all the plans we have this evening, should be stamped by the engineer and the land surveyor, so we would like both the stamps on the plans, please. Stormwater calculation, so a slight increase in the 2-year storm event, but because it's a redevelopment project, they are meeting the maximum extent practicable standard. They should be okay with that. The riverfront impact table was revised. So we have accurate quantities for alteration. Originally, the plans that you saw were just for the utility poles. It's now including the road expansion as well. So adding a turn lane and some additional pavement on the east side of this plan. So the vegetation management clearing of 10 feet on either side of the utility poles. Could you scroll down to that other plan, sheet 2? Thank you.
Wait, not to jump in, but I think we do have both stamps on the plans now.
Oh, you do? Okay, perfect.
But
Thank you, Nick. I did not see that up at the top corner.
yeah, they hide it. It's fun.
Okay, so the magenta dashed line
That
Is
one.
that the 10 feet?
That is the sediment control line. I believe that's the orange. Might be on the other page. I thought that the orange is the proposed tree line, the orange, bumpy cloud looking. And then, but,
Okay, so that's the 10 feet vegetation clearance.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, and so you just clip a little bit of that isolated wetland. Did you quantify that?
I think that's the proposed tree line. Oh, no, limit of grading is this. There's just a lot of arrows. The proposed tree line, limit of grading is here. So the limit of grading does go to the pink dash, which is the sediment control line. As you first stated. I think that that's also,
So your orange bumpy line, that's the new canopy.
yeah, I don't,
Okay, so see how it clips that
I see that now.
one little section? Did you quantify that?
I don't think that we had that quantified, but
Okay, if you
I'm-
could just get us that number, that'd be fine.
yeah, I don't know if there's any actual trees located there that were being cut, if that makes sense.
Okay,
I'll check.
any vegetation, so we might as well just count that. So if something grows and it does need to be cut and maintained, then it's covered in the permit.
To quantify the small.
Yeah,
isolated-
it's just that tiny little area.
Okay.
So we have the plans. Yeah, so it's just, the only thing we need is that little amount. So I'm sure that's something you could get to us quickly if the commission wanted to close this evening.
Yeah.
put that in.
Jennifer, anything else?
Nope.
Comments or questions from other members of the commission? Any public comment here tonight for 560 Foundry Street? Seeing none, Nick, I assume you'd like to close,
Yeah, that would be great.
and you're willing to provide the requested calculations.
Yeah. and I
Okay.
can, upload into Permitize or whatever needs to be done, make sure everything's all set. But
I think that's perfect. Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing for 560 Foundry Street.
Vecchio second.
Carol motion, Vecchio second, roll call vote, Carol I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Vecchio I.
Motion to issue a order of conditions and permit for work for 560 Foundry Street.
Crossman second.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote, Carol I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Vecchio I.
Thank you, Nick.
Great, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Up next is 524 Depot Street, notice of intent for the construction of a public safety and public works facility.
I think we have everybody, Ben.
Okay. Ready when you are.
So thank you all for having us back again. Greg Joint on behalf of KBA and the town, the architect for the public safety and DPW project. With me tonight is Devin Hendrick, wetland scientist for Weston and Sampson, Elena Comptor, civil engineer for Weston and Sampson, and Eric Royce, landscape architect for KBA, all of which are working on the project and will have the ability to answer questions from the commission tonight. With that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to Devin so she can take us through the responses to staff comments. We received the stormwater peer review today, so we will be requesting a continuance tonight, so we are able to respond to that. But other than that, we're happy to address the comments or any other questions or concerns from the commission tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Is everyone able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. All right. I'm hoping that my screen will pop up momentarily and you'll be able to see our response to comments letter.
We can see your letter.
That's great news. Okay. So this was just uploaded to Permitize today, so we absolutely acknowledge that no one will have gotten a chance to see it yet, but we wanted to take the opportunity to at least put this in front of you.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to go through each individual response if that's what the commission wishes. We would also be happy to just hold, and if perhaps there were any specific staff comments the commission would like to see a response to, we would be happy to go through those. Whatever the commission desires, we certainly want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense for us to review this offline and then have a discussion again at our
Absolutely.
next meeting. That, of course, being said, I open that up to other members of the commission. If anyone disagrees and would like to go through all comments now, very much open to it.
No, I agree with you, Ben. I think that might be best to review it offline.
Very good.
And so those are the response to the comments that I gave earlier.
Yes,
Not
and
peer
you're
review.
exactly. Yes. Yes, thank you for clarifying. These are the response to the staff report comments. We did just receive the peer review letter today, which we absolutely look forward to, and we will put together another response letter to address those.
Okay, and we do have Eric here today in case he'd like to just touch on a few items that you think are most pressing.
If the commission would like, I'm glad to just kind of blast through some of the high points from our letter, just so we're all kind of in the know on what we're looking for at this point.
Please.
The letter, as they noted, did come through this today, probably this afternoon. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it done until the weekend, and I wanted an opportunity for Jen and I to discuss it before we made it public, so we did that. Quite a few comments. A lot of those comments are bookkeeping items. It's probably the length of it probably makes it look a little scarier than it actually is. But just a couple of the things that we kind of really want to take a hard look at. With regard to Stormwater Standard 2, which is peak rate attenuation, the calculations show that they are controlling the peak rate of discharge from the site. But if you dig a little deeper through the hydrologic analysis, it does show that the volume going off the site is higher. In this case, where it's going to a rather large wetland, it's likely not a huge deal, but we want to just confirm that the applicant should, or the engineering team should be able to put something together that confirms that it's not going to be a problem, result in downstream flooding or offsite flooding, things like that. The other one that we caught on to was with regard to the Rawls rate that was used for the stormwater infiltration. Not necessarily a regulatory concern, but kind of a practical functionality concern. Rawls rates are an acceptance rate of the soil, and the Stormwater Handbook designs them based on soil textural class. So in this case, the soil textural class is a loamy sand, which is the second highest Rawls rate you can get, which is good. The concern is the loamy sand was observed by my office and noted in the soil logs as being very compact in place. It's very, very dense. And when that happens, those soils in situ likely will not take water at the same rate that they would otherwise when they're that dense. They kind of act, you've probably heard the term hard pan before. That's what they act like. So we want to take a hard look at that. If the infiltration rate is lower than what's been designed, the system will not function properly. It will end up with flooding on site. It can end up with additional discharge problems off site, things like that. There's a few ways to skin that cat. There are some more advanced soil testing that we can do on site. There are also some design changes that we can probably tweak to make this not a huge deal. And I'm glad to discuss, my ideas with the engineering team, so we can just kind of get together on the same page. Similarly, some of the groundwater mounding analysis calculations show that in high storm events, the groundwater will mound into the infiltration system. That robs capacity from the system. So if that capacity is not there and it's sized to take a certain amount of water, it won't. Generally something that we want to take a look at, make sure it's not going to be a problem. And again, we can quantify that and make some tweaks. Outside of that, just some comments about groundwater separation, which are things that we can either deal with in the field or discuss more in depth. And the other thing, aside from stormwater, that we were asked to take a look at is the crossing, the wetland crossings. A couple of things to confirm, just dimensionally on the wetland crossings. I don't think it's going to be an issue to make them meet the wetland crossing standards. They're pretty sizable. But one question we certainly did have was with regard to the temporary crossings. I think, and Jennifer may know more about this than I do, I may be a little bit later to the game, but there's generally two schools of thoughts when it comes to temporary crossings. One school of thought is that you cross, get everything you need to the other side, build the crossing, and then build everything behind the crossing. The other school of thought is that the crossing becomes a temporary haul road outside of the crossing footprint that gets used back and forth while the crossing is being built. So in this case, for example, it may be the intention that the DPW facility is being built at the same time the crossings are being built, which is why the temporary crossing is located in a different place. These things are not, it's not undoable. It's just important that we know what the intention is. Because one, crossings outside of the permanent crossing are going to cause more clearing to be required within the buffer zone and within the wetland. But two, sometimes the way that we design those crossings is different if they're going to be a continuous haul road or if they're going to be a one-time crossing, so to speak, especially when we come into certain seasonal constraints. As we all know, the freeze-thaw effect, especially in a wetter area, can cause a major problem. So these are just things that we want to clarify so we can make sure that the temporary crossings are going to function properly. The last thing we want to do is have to winch a big truck out of the wetland because something didn't work the right way, and then nobody's super happy about that. But again, all things that I think we can work together, just workshop a couple of these things and probably get back in front of you folks with a plain bill of health.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes, sir.
So do you want to take, we'll just take a day or two to read each other's letters, and then if you'd like, we can schedule a Zoom and try to make sure we each understand the other's comments and really narrow down that list of what's left to do, if that makes sense to everyone.
Sure, and if the commission did have any questions or comments, we're happy to address them. We did try to address particularly the comments based on the site walk that some of you did. Addressed them with the, particularly the DPW as some of them concern them. I think we've tried to, as much as possible, take the commission's comments and implement them within the design. So hopefully you'll see that reflected in the responses.
Great. Mike, did you want to say anything about the site inspection for the rest of the commission?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, I don't really much to say about it. I think it went really well. It was important to see.
Feels like a long time ago.
Feels like a long
Sorry,
time
I
ago.
just put you on the
It really
spot.
was. You put me on the spot. No, I'm good right now. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any public comment here for 524 Depot Street? All right, seeing none. I assume you want to continue this to the next meeting, 9/9?
Yes,
Correct.
please.
Thank you.
Yeah. So motion to continue 524 Depot Street to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Maybe a second.
Carol motion, Spadia second, roll call vote. Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for
Appreciate
your
it.
time.
Bye.
Of course. All right, moving on to enforcement. First up is 109 Rockland Street.
Yeah, the enforcement order was issued on August 6th, requiring a filing by today. It was sent email and regular mail. The property owner did call to say that she was not doing the work. It was her son. But we've been there a few times to discuss it with her son, and he was supposed to remove the fill from the wetland, and then I would go over the next steps with him. And I have not received a reply from him for quite a while. So
And that was, I mean, that was early summer, right? It might even been spring when we had that conversation.
definitely spring. Yeah.
So in light of the revelation that maybe we were speaking to an agent as opposed to the person the entire time, and there's some contact, I think let's do this again. But with the caveat that, look, at if we don't have a notice of intent in by 9/9.
Well, it's not even a notice of intent. We want them to remove the fill from the wetland.
Yeah.
We're not looking for a permit to
Yep.
to fill the wetland, so they need to remove that fill.
I misspoke there.
Okay.
Yeah, the work needs to be underway, or our next meeting will be having a conversation about fines.
Okay.
Everybody agree?
Totally agree.
So, anything else on that one?
Yep.
So 20 Central Street.
Reminder was sent on August 6th that all the planting is required to be done by the end of September. I did get an email today or last couple of days requesting a change in some of the plants. Looks like they couldn't get a few of the trees. And I made some suggestions. So we're going back and forth on that, but it looks like that is moving forward.
I'm happy with communication.
Yeah.
So next one is 24 Summer Street.
24 Summer, the enforcement order was already issued in February, so I sent a copy of it at the beginning of August with a deadline of today to submit the permit application, or there could be potential fines, as you discussed at a previous meeting. I also sent a hard copy. I did get a reply while I was on vacation. He has started the permit application. It is not complete yet. And that's we are.
Yeah. This one's just been going on for a very long time. And I feel like we have the same conversation every 2 or 3 weeks. I guess some progress is okay, but if I recall this correctly, 24 Summer Street really had 2 choices, right? Submit a notice of intent for work that we sort of came to a compromise with the applicant and it made sense post violation, or you do not need to submit a notice of intent. You can replant what was taken down. So those are the 2 options here. One of those 2 needs to happen by the next meeting. Because I think, Mike, what was it? Fall, winter when we were out there? And that was after a couple of meetings?
Yeah, that was end of winter, we'll call it. It was pretty cold that day, so.
Very much, if there's an issue and the property owner needs to talk to us, open to it. I just don't.
Right.
Those are the options at this point.
Agreed.
Okay.
358 Turnpike Street.
Yes, I also sent them a reminder that their restoration was due by September 1st. And I was notified today that the blocks are in, all the trash has been removed, including the boat in the wetland. The plants have been installed and they're just about ready for an inspection. So I can do that in the next week or 2.
That's how I like these to go.
Yes.
And then one that I am happy is not on here, but I'm going to ask about is 5 Jonathan Drive.
I was gonna ask, I want to know too.
Oh, well, I've been in Colorado, so I have not been out to the site again since the restoration was completed. We did receive a restoration report from LEC.
Great.
I printed it. I just didn't have time to read it today in preparation for the meeting. So, but that, as long as nothing happened in a big rainstorm, that should be looking good.
Great.
Awesome.
right, so that brings us to board discussion, and Nate, you're up because NRT Harvest Fair is October 6th, 2024. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, what is that, a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely do. Yeah, as long as I'm not I referee high school football, so as long as I don't have to referee a high school football game, I will certainly enjoy some time with my salamander friends. Oh, we're gonna have salamanders then or something different?
I'm leading a rock climbing trip in New York that weekend, so I won't be there.
What?
So
What do
Nate, you can find your own salamanders. Probably.
what are you gonna leave me for treats?
I'll
Alright.
try to think of something.
Alright, yeah.
You
Go
have
find
a
your own
backup
salamanders.
is what we
Nate.
need to know, though. Is there a backup person to go if Nate cannot make it?
It's
Yeah,
illegal to
I
transfer
can
wild.
block my thing. I can probably make it work. So, I'll just block my calendar tonight. So,
I can't sell it. I don't know if anyone else can.
no,
I can show up for 30 minutes with two small
I'll
children.
I'll be the NIT festival guy, but you gotta give me a bucket of something. I don't care what it is.
Just run down to the little vernal pool over by the chicken coops with a bucket before the presentation.
Bucket of chicken will work. That's fine too.
Fair enough.
You may end up with my scat collection because there's not anything in the vernal pool right now.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something kids love. So keep thinking.
What are you talking about?
I think you're wrong about that, Nate. I think kids would
Well, I
love-
think they like the idea of that. Probably it's not gonna really hit like the salamanders. So we gotta over a month. Just keep thinking.
Okay.
So up next is the Sam Wright Field update.
Okay, we have draft plans for the culvert removal and the wetland and floodplain restoration, so I can show those to you. Give me just a second.
That's it.
This might be a little tough to see. So if you can see my mouse.
Yep.
Okay, so if this is Bay Road, then the long driveway that comes down, big open field where we did some of the soil removal 2 years ago. Now this is Mulberry Meadowbrook.
Okay.
This. Okay. So this is Mulberry Meadowbrook with the little pond in the middle. There is a culvert here in an earthen dam. This section would be removed and then regrade each side of the stream so that it flows properly. And then this area would be dug back out as a wetland and floodplain restoration area. So this is funding that we received from Representative Doherty as part of the state budget. So it's $100,000 was dedicated toward drafting these plans. And we're working with the Nature Conservancy. They are providing at least $150,000 in funding to put this plan into work. Okay. Then we also have a restoration plan. And so here's the stream again, right through the center. This is where the culvert is being removed, the wetland restoration. And then most of this plan is trying to get rid of exotic invasive species and providing better habitat. Some of the fields will be mowed twice a year or every other year. There's another plan that shows. That's a little too big. There we go. Habitat areas, so including root bars, log floats, Looks like some stone. There's the planting plan for the wetland restoration area. There's the details. We'll skip those. And so then there'll be meadow mixes, evening raptor perch would be installed. Another raptor perch would be installed over here on the other side. Sandbank nesting for birds, and I think further down here, we were looking at hibernacular for snakes. There's a potential turtle nesting area. So really enhancing the habitat features and punch-in for some of the wetter sections of the trails. So if these look, like good ideas to everyone, we can give a rough or a vote that says you're good with that, and then they will begin the permitting process.
Yeah.
Any questions on those?
That's much needed. The woodcocks will love that next year. We'll have a great time.
Yes, yes.
And
There were some there, but the dogs were
Were
chasing
there?
them away, so.
Oh, hey, the hunting dog's got to play.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the snakes.
A lot of snakes.
Snakes.
They'll love it.
Get some good hibernacular in there. Okay, so everybody's good with the plan. I'll tell them, yes, proceed with the permit.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay,
Conservation project list.
just a note that we are going to the CPC meeting on September 12th.
Mhm.
So if people can attend, that is really helpful. We'll be talking about Tufts Farm, restoration of the entire farmstead, not just the house, but the barn and the workshop and the fencing and things that we're doing there. The parking lot was approved at the site plan review meeting a couple weeks ago.
Thank you to everybody who went to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much noticed.
Yes. We'll be talking about the Keach land. Hopefully the appraisal will be in by that time. And the ponds evaluation that we discussed at the beginning of this meeting. And we're just about to sign the contract to replace our conservation signs. That's just about ready. So those would begin shortly. That's it for those updates.
Okay. Review meeting minutes of 8/5/24.
I don't think you had any, right?
I didn't look. I'm
Okay.
gonna be totally honest
We don't
here.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
without
I
Al,
didn't-
I'm gonna kick that one over.
That would be the next meeting.
Yeah, let's fix that there.
Yeah.
Chair updates. I had planned to say what I said, which is thank you to everybody who went to the site plan review meeting.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And environmental planner updates.
Yes. So we're evaluating New Pond Dam and Old Pond Dam with the funding that we've already received for invasive species and water quality. We also received funding as part of the capital budget to repair Old Pond Dam. But if we did not take a look at whether there was any potential to remove the dam, we'd be remiss in doing that before we actually just go forward with repairing things. There's a significant cost to maintaining dams. There is a cost to removing dams as well, but it's more of a one-time thing. The habitat restoration would be significant. We're sort of starting that conversation by removing the culvert and the dam at Sam Wright Field. At Old Pond Dam, I'm told I also received a grant from the EPA from, I'd say, not quite the bank, but a little further upstream from the bank over to remove the exotic invasive plants there. So we're already talking about habitat restoration right in that area. And it's a good time to bring up the potential. I would love to see all the dams removed, but that's not practical. But trying to get some habitat restoration as well. So this is one place where it would be good to take a look at it before we just repair the dam. Just get the information and make a decision that way. So
Yeah, the dams also strike me as kind of a constant administrative and engineering problem.
yes,
Like
every
I know Nate, I think Nate and Michael recall having to cut down and permit the cutting down of, I mean, that had to have been what, 50 trees across our dams.
yes, yeah.
So
But it's more than that. So it's a annual environmental action plan that has to be done. Every 5 years, the engineering company has to go out and inspect the dams, which we've just finished to that. It was 25,000 out of our, open space funding that we spent on basically a public safety issue. Then it's maintaining the dam every year, whether it's cutting trees, mowing, any repairs that need to be done. And the big ticket items when there are problems with it, like it's well over $500,000 to repair the dam.
So if we can get rid of those, seems like we maybe ought to, and it makes sense.
I will say this too. I've been, so Jen, you kind of brought this up to me in the past, and I've kind of been thinking about it. And it's funny. So I've been watching Vermont, and they've actually taken this on in a big way because of, obviously you guys have been watching the impactful flooding that's going on. They're realizing all these dams are built for, like, again, Sawmill Village is probably why New and Old Pond have a dam, and they've all built because of these back in the day deals that are no longer. These dams are actually not helping the environment, not helping the natural flow, not helping the potential flooding. So yeah, getting rid of these dams is really a truthful win. We're only holding up water for no reason. Plus, it's probably why Old Pond, New Pond's not doing so hot. That water not cycling through is not great. So
it's also heating up and it's impacting
yes,
the fish, which
yes,
is a big deal.
110%. 100, it's choking them out, no doubt. So yeah.
So we're just getting the conversation started to see if there's an appetite for it. We're having the engineer go out to the property with us. I requested, people from select board, town manager's office, finance committee, planning department, just so we can meet with the engineer and just have a brief discussion of, what are the pros and cons of both. And so I can send you that date and time in case you want to attend as well.
Unrelated point, which I guess falls under any pertinent item not anticipated by the chair, although the chair's bringing it up. So it seems like Triple E's a problem this year. And I'm just, a curiosity is that I have is when the town and the state does spraying, whether by plane or truck, does that get permitted through us?
No.
Do we ever see that?
No, it'd be part of Bristol County mosquito control, and they are exempt from filing wetland permits.
Okay. I think that makes
individual homeowners can say no, they don't want their property sprayed.
Yeah.
Um,
It's tough. I still do, and they still do. So it's very tough. But
yeah, I was
I
more.
understand we happen to have the Hockomock Swamp. That's a big area, but the spraying also does kill all the predators who would be eating the mosquitoes. So mixed feelings about that.
The numbers in Western Mass are wild. I don't know that it's going to get that bad here, but I just a curiosity. I didn't know if we need to be on alert for something like that. Sounds like it's taken care of.
Well, yeah, it's also the the basic wear long sleeves, long pants, and things that people don't like to do in the hot summer nights.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That is all for this
I'm
evening.
going to do my real quick American chestnut.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, please.
It'll be really fast. So I met with Dominic this week. I went to Borderland. I really want him to show me kind of what this tree's looking like. What do they look like when they're grown? What do they serve? Which ones that are flourishing? Where are they flourishing? How are they flourishing? So on. I definitely learned from Dominic that this is we're gonna get involved with this, or we're gonna have a lot of heartbreak. It's they do not take on as good as I think we want them to, and I think it's gonna take some work and time. So with that kind of said, I want to start picking up some spots. I definitely understand what we may need. One thing I'd like to say is, with the water scenario, if we plant these in the spring or springtime, whenever, we have to water them. Someone has to maintain that. And that's, obviously we're not gonna probably run out the rib jobs. It's gonna be a little difficult. If we do them in the fall, like a lot of plantings, it could go really well. It's gonna sit dormant over the winter and potentially really flourish come spring to root itself well and all that. Dominic likes that idea as well. He also has plants that he can get in the ground like right now. So if you want, give me by next meeting, I can give you guys like a list of spots I had thought looked pretty good. unless you guys want me to wait and I can meet with Dominic in those spots, I can get his approval and saying they're good. And then give you guys a list. I don't want to give you like, trickle down, but I'm pretty sure I know what what's going to be needed. It's pretty not.
I also don't think we need to like specifically vote on each spot, right? Like I
No,
think,
I don't. I just more kind of want to.
yeah. Why don't you present like an idea of some spots and then just work with Dominic to finalize it?
Done.
I think
Beautiful.
between the two of you, you have way more ability to locate those spots and get them
Oh, yeah.
planted than I do.
You're the
we'll get it
chestnut
done.
guy.
And hopefully
I'm
we
the
get it done
chestnut
soon.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get it done this fall, that would be pretty helpful to us. So.
And if you need like a nursery type of area,
Yep.
we're expanding the community garden. So we can
Sweet.
also take over one plot if we want to sort of
That's interesting.
do small pots until they get just a little bit bigger and stronger and then plant them. But
Like that. Yeah, the
there's the option to do that.
You could even probably do you could probably safely put 3-year-old, like up to 3-year-old plants in there and keep them safe for a while because like a 3-year-old American chestnut or hybrid is pretty big. I was surprised. By the way, he wants more so hybrid and maybe a couple Americans. I think the hybrid's probably going to be the winner.
Sure.
So.
But we have that option. And
I like that. I like that.
there are people there all the time who
Yes.
could help keep it watered and take care of it.
Yeah, just keeping it protected is key. That's awesome.
Yes.
Perfect.
Sweet. Cool. That's my chestnut tree.
All right.
By the way, there's a ton of them in Borderland. If you guys are one of the secret stash, let me know. It's wild.
All right, I'm making a motion. Motion to adjourn.
Second, Crossman.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote, Carol aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spadia.
SGOI.
See you in a couple weeks, everybody.
Nice
guys.
job. Thank you,
Have a great day.
everyone.